My name is Peggy Adams, President of the League of Women Voters, Flint Area. With partners Communities First Incorporated, represented by Lori Ross, and Flint Beat, represented by Scott Atkinson, we share a purpose to engage, empower, and educate Flint voters. We're happy to bring you a virtual community forum today to help you decide which candidate for Flint City Council in your ward will get your vote. Questions will be asked by representatives from Flint Beat and the League of Women Voters, while Communities First Incorporated staff will ensure the forum remains on time and on schedule. All candidates who have qualified to be on the ballot, as well as write-in candidates registered with the clerk's office by September 24th, were invited. Only write-ins who are registered with the clerk's office can be counted in an election. Because of our time constraints, we could not accommodate write-in candidates who registered after September 24th. Some candidates chose not to participate. All were informed they would need to comply with certain rules, such as refraining from comments on other persons and only taking the opportunity to tell voters about their own qualifications, priorities, and outlook. All candidates are asked the same questions, and all have the same 2 minutes to answer them. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this today and for being an engaged citizen.
All right, thanks for joining us today. My name is Scott Atkinson with Flint Beat. I am joined by Peggy Adams of the League of Women Voters, Lori Ross from Communities First, Inc., and 5th Ward candidate Joseph Cabane. Incumbent Jerry Winfrey Carter is not joining us today. So Joseph, if you could you give us a quick introduction of yourself along with a summary of the qualifications and skills you possess that would make you an asset as a council member?
Sure, definitely. Thank you guys for having me. Well, my name is Joseph Cabane. I am running for 5th Ward City Council. I am the director of Flint Public Art Project. You might know them with the mural project around here. I also am the FAR project manager with the Community Foundation and MSU. We're doing a study of the food system here in Flint to help create access to more equitable food, or access to healthy food. And I have a master's in public administration, and I am almost finished the master's in accounting. Those are some of my qualifications. I do know the neighborhood very, very well. I've worked with Flint Public Art Project. I have worked in and with a lot of different neighborhoods. I've done a lot of volunteer work also throughout the city with.
Okay.
I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry. I thought Peggy was saying something. Done a lot of volunteer work throughout the city, including in different neighborhoods. My brother's keeper, with the food bank, and as an AmeriCorps service member here in Flint. That was the countdown. So that's pretty much a lot of it. Maybe I talk too fast, I don't know.
So Joseph, what are the 3 most pressing issues that you think are facing your ward? And if elected, how would you address them?
We need crime. It's basically a lot of things are throughout the city. One is crime, light, and our schools, which the city council doesn't really have much to do with the schools. They can help and support, but they can't. The school board has their own schools. School board in place to take care of the schools. But as city council, we do need to address blight. We do need to address the crime in the city. And one of the third other issue I would say is the way council acts in council. That needs to be addressed. We need to start getting things done. We need to start getting more work done, start working together as a team to move the city forward. Blight and crime kind of go hand in hand, and it also goes with revenue. The city needs to generate some more revenue, and we need to come up with alternative ways to generate what revenue in the city to help be able to afford a larger police department and eliminate some of the blight or rehab some of the house. Communities First does a great job at rehabbing a lot of the older big buildings throughout the neighborhoods and throughout the city, and look for different ways and create different policies. There's a lot of different models that I've looked at and studied of how they've created generated other revenue to help build up the cities. And I would continue to plead with the council to look at some of those in the administration, to look at some new other models in some other cities that have been successful that could help pull the city out of the situation it's in.
What best practices will you employ when making decisions on behalf of the city?
What best practices? Be respectful is one of the biggest ones I would. When council, if you work with council, if you listen to our council meetings, it's kind of unmitigated chaos, and we need to learn to work together and work for the city. We need to listen to our constituents. We need to make sure we're available. My phone is up. My phone. A lot of people in the city already know my phone is on all the time, and they call me all the time. We need, one of the things I think maybe might help our council getting along to move things together, to be able to move things forward, is some bonding and working together exercises. Maybe we pick a area in the city every month, and we do some kind of a cleanup project together where we actually do the project, not have people there and go there and take pictures, but we're there doing the work and beautifying, working together, coming together. I think some team building exercises would work good on that. And that way we could work together to actually move things forward.
Okay. What efforts, if any, would you take as an elected leader to ensure transparency and access in governance?
I think city council should have different town halls on a regular basis to update people, to talk to people about things, to let people know what's going on in the government and let them know what's going on in the city so they can give their input and also have an open dialogue. If you start meeting on a regular basis, you're going to build an open dialogue to where people feel comfortable expressing their ideas and what they want and their opinions on stuff. And then we can work together. So that way, if I'm going to be voting on something, I want to be voting on something that the people want. I don't want to vote on something that just because I think it's good doesn't mean everybody else thinks it's good. So if I think it's good, then I need to talk to my constituents and let them know why I think it's good, and let them, go over the pros and cons and say, this is what we need to look at, and get their opinion and make sure we come up with a concise decision of what we're going to do to move the city forward. But I think town hall meetings are key.
Joseph, you had touched on blight and crime earlier. What would you do as a councilman to keep the community safe and clean?
Well, I would work with the police department. I would like to see if we could, as a council, have an evaluation done on the police department. Someone working with it, and when I talk about an evaluation of the police department, I'm not talking about going over. Let's find out and get everybody in trouble. I'm talking about let's go in and look at where can we support you? Where are the missing links in here? And where do we need to find funding to help support you, to help grow you? And that way we know we're doing it correctly and we're doing it the way they needed to be be built up and grown. So they're going to feel confident going out there and working and helping with the community. There's got to be community relationships with the police officers, which I know the state police does a really good job. We worked with them a lot with the neighborhood art parades throughout the years to build community relationships with different police officers. But we need to have that relationship in the community. We also need to look at how we can build and grow. We got to find out where the shortfalls are in the police department so we can find the money to start building them up. And blight, we need to, there's a lot of different ways that you can issue blight. I know we talked about dumping. There's been a few cities that actually have turned dumping spots into art projects. Is that something we want to look at? There's tons of multi-million-dollar grants out there to do stuff like that and solve some of those issues. Or how do we come up with an alternative way to get that to stop?
Thanks, Joe. So here's the fun one. Speaking of money, how would you go about balancing the city's budget?
Well, we need to create different revenue for the city. We need to bring in we need to bring in money, and we can't tax the people to do that. The people I feel have been taxed enough to where we can't put any more of the burden on them. So we need to look at some alternative issues or some alternative things. We need to look at the different marijuana dispensaries and the taxes and the negotiations that we have on those. We need to look at possibly different issues with new buildings and new construction projects going up. Is there ways that they can help support some of the community a little bit more as they're being built and still be flattering? Can we look at things like a film commission that would help work with all the different communities, all the different businesses, people, city, and all the different levels to help bring in different movie industries to help bring in some revenue? So it makes that an easy transition for a production company to come in and possibly film movies here that bring in a lot of money. I mean, we're filming right here. We're filming a movie right now over the last 3 weeks here in Flint with a production company from LA. And I'd say roughly just in food alone, they've spent probably about $6,000 to $7,000 in local restaurants.
All right. Well, Fifth Ward candidate Joseph Cabane, thank you for joining us today, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. You have a great day.
You as well.
My name is Peggy Adams, president of the League of Women Voters, Flint Area. With partners Communities First Incorporated, represented by Lori Ross, and Flint Beat, represented by Scott Atkinson, we share a purpose to engage, empower, and educate Flint voters. We're happy to bring you a virtual community forum today to help you decide which candidate for Flint City Council in your ward will get your vote. Questions will be asked by representatives from Flint Beat and the League of Women Voters, while Communities First Incorporated staff will ensure the forum remains on time and on schedule. All candidates who have qualified to be on the ballot, as well as write-in candidates registered with the clerk's office by September 24th, were invited. Only write-ins who are registered with the clerk's office can be counted in an election. Because of our time constraints, we could not accommodate write-in candidates who registered after September 24th. Some candidates chose not to participate. All were informed they would need to comply with certain rules. such as refraining from comments on other persons and only taking the opportunity to tell voters about their own qualifications, priorities, and outlook. All candidates are asked the same questions, and all have the same 2 minutes to answer them. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this today and for being an engaged citizen.
Turn my what?
All right, welcome everybody. I am Scott Atkinson with Flint Beat. I am joined by Lori Ross of Communities First Inc. and Peggy Adams of the League of Women Voters, as well as our 6th Ward candidates, Tanya Burns, Chris Del Moroni, and Claudia Perkins. So Tanya, we're going to start with you today. Could you tell us, give us a brief introduction of yourself and a summary of the qualifications that you think you bring to the table as a city councilwoman?
Scott, did you ask the question? My internet is dropping.
No worries. I'll say it again. Can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you now.
All right. So could you introduce yourself and just provide a brief introduction of yourself along with a summary of the qualification or skills you possess that would make you an asset as a council member?
Sure. I am Tanya Burns. I am a Flint native. Been in Flint most of my life, a business owner, passionate about my community. I want Flint to be, I grew up where Flint was, we had so many great things that we saw, and I like to see it come back to the vitality that it had. I want to make sure that, we're bringing neighbor back into neighborhoods. I want to make sure that we're stabilizing our communities. For me, I'm a businesswoman. I've worked for 25 years. I did alarm. I was the first person, female owner of a ADT dealership in the U.S. I've worn many hats. My last job, I worked in economic development for the city of Flint. Always been active in my community and speaking out because you have to be a voice for those who don't. And making sure that, I'm bringing our community together, unifying our community, looking for better ways that we can have a better life, making sure we have transparency, and I want inclusiveness of all groups. That's what's important to me. I'm hoping we can move our city forward. Flint has had a decline, but I'd like to see Flint go up on the incline, and we've got some good things going on here, and I'd like to see them to continuously progress. I didn't see the hands.
All right. All right. So Chris, same question. Could you introduce yourself and tell us what qualifications and skills you possess that would make you an asset as a council member?
Yes, thank you. My name is Chris Del Moroni, and I live in Flint, Michigan. I was born in Flint, Michigan. I'm a graduate of the University of Michigan here in Flint. I've been at my current residence for 25 plus years. Some of the skills that I have or background experience and how I'm involved in the community include being a lector at my church. I've helped out on Special Olympics at their state summer and winter games. I was chairperson at our civil rights committee at Local 1292. Also chairperson of many other committees at 1292, our Citizenship and Legislative Committee. I've attended basically all the city council meetings for the last 15, 16 years. I'm on the board of review for the city of Flint. I was appointed to that by one of the council people back in the day. I'm the chairperson of that committee. I'm the chairperson of the Genesee County Land Bank Citizens Advisory Council. So I can bring in a wide breadth of, let me say, knowledge of how some departments at City Hall function. I've worked through the Inez Brown's office, the city clerk's office on elections. I've attended the March, the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, D.C. in 2013. Excuse me. Currently, right now, I'm the asphalt plant that was that's proposed for Carpenter Road in Genesee Township. I set up that meeting for the community to go there and protest So I'm very active in the community. I believe I have an understanding of what's going on at Flint City Council. Some of I think the three main
all right,
issues.
Chris, that's 2 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And Claudia Perkins, it sounds like, are we still having tech issues there? Why don't you give us a mic check, Claudia? See if we can...
She needs to unmute.
Unmute.
There we go.
Okay, all right, Claudia, so same question for you as well. Could you give us a brief introduction of yourself and tell us what qualities and skills you possess that would make you an asset to the City Council?
I'm Claudia Perkins. I'm a native of Flint, Michigan. I raised my family here, mother of 3. I was the highest position in the UAW over at the AC Spark Plug / Delphi Corporation. So at the highest level, I negotiated contracts from all over the country. I led 10 major strikes, been hit with tear gas on picket lines. I've taught at the colleges, Michigan State, U of M. I've been guest speakers all over the country. I have been a director of the Greater Flint A. Philip Randolph Institute. I'm a member of the Coalition of Labor Union Women. I'm the vice president of the Million Woman March Movement. I partnered with the Red Cross and led the breast camps. I've been a community activist my entire adult life. I am with the Democracy Defense League. We are your original water warriors. So I have a connection because most of your politicians had to come through my office in order to get elected, as I commanded 13,000 votes in this city. So I have a reach. I have a lot of reaches, a lot of resources.
Okay, it looks like we're ready to move to the next set of questions. Chris, would you tell us what are the 3 most pressing issues facing your community or ward? And if elected, how will you address them?
Yes, thank you. During the primary, I felt that the 3 issues were crime, blight, and economic development. Right now, crime is still a problem. All those 3 issues are very important. I think right now the most important issue in our community, facing our community, is the proper spending of the money coming into Flint from the federal government. $40+ million this year and another 40 some million next year. It's very important that those funds are used properly. If they are not, then the city will have to pay those back. And that's something that the city cannot afford. In regards to spending that money, I think it should be spent on long-term, something that will pay long-term dividends to the city of Flint, not simply a one-time, let me say, expenditure where it doesn't pay any dividends. So, if we can somehow improve our infrastructure, our water, our sewer lines, things that need to be done at the water plant, sidewalks, streets, those pay long-term dividends. It's an investment and they'll last for years and years. Crime, we are in a lawless society here in Flint. Nothing is there's no respect for the law, whether it be how people drive their vehicles, park their vehicles. There's no respect for life. It's very unfortunate. This cannot be the norm in our community or any community. So crime, blight is a problem. We cannot consider to be a success on blight by spending more money and picking up more trash. To be successful on the fight against.
That's the end of your time. Thank you. Claudia, what would you do? What do you see as the 3 most important issues? And if elected, how will you address them?
Well, crime, blight, drag racing. Actually, let me change that. It's crime. I think public schools. Drag racing. Crime is it's probably always going to be with us, but I'm partnering right now, and I'm working in the mini police stations. We opened up the mini police stations today, and that's one way to help out in the community. Also partnering with, I have a rapport with the police chief and the mayor and anybody else that any kind of program. I've been in the ceasefires, helping with those, staying up all night, trying to go around to different businesses to talk with the people in the community so that we can do better with the crime, and trying to put programs together to help lessen it. The drag racing. A young man got killed on Flushing and Ballinger, was hit, and he went up over the street light, came down, and he was gone. So we need to, I've seen them just they act like they're on the expressway in the local streets in that. And we got to put a handle on things like that. The public schools are a problem. If we get the kids back in the community, then we bring people back into the community and clean this place up. This place, we can do much better. I visited other cities like Lansing, and it's just clean, and so it's attractive to draw people in. We've got a lot of work to do, but I'm up to the task, and so anything I can do to help this community, that's what I'm going to do.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burns, what do you see as the 3 most important issues, and what would you do if elected? You are muted. Please unmute. There we go.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Peggy. The 3 most important issues are what I made as my platform for day one. I don't fire. Number 2, number 3 is economic development. When we talk about public safety, we know we have a problem with police. We had a problem in our community with Sunoco. They used to call it Club Sunoco. I went to work on and wrote a 3-point action plan, which curbed the violence at that place. Worked with the owner, and the 3-point action plan consisted of number 1, acknowledging that we had the problem and having them reconnect their cameras to the police intel center. And the owner had been previously, he didn't want to do that. I got together the four block club presidents, along with a couple of the residents, and had the business owner listen to them, what were the needs of the community. Then I also, he had post his loitering signs. And third, he had to make sure he hired a security guard at his cost between the hours 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. when most of the issues were occurring. So I believe in not only acknowledging, but we have to go to work on. Also, blight. I work in our community for every cleanup. We know that in our ward, we have hundreds of houses that may need tear down, but we currently only have 2 which are slated for tear down. So we have to find those funds and work with the county. The biggest landowner or property owner in the city of Flint is the land bank. So we have had some issues. Went to work on another home that we have on Seneca, which for 5 years we call it the rat home. I wrote an action plan to get the squatters moved out of that home and to get the home condemned. So we have to make sure we're working and listening to what the community needs are in our community. So economic development. I worked in economic development for the city of Flint, writing plans, helping to assist to write the economic development plan for the city of Flint with Jim Durian. So I see Flint as a diamond that we just need to polish up a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you all. Scott.
All right, so Claudia, we're going to start with you on this next this question. What? Can you hear me? Okay.
I can now.
Okay. What best practices will you employ when making decisions on behalf of the city?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Who's he talking to? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I couldn't hardly hear you. Okay. A best practice that I've always used was safety. Safety is the overriding priority for all of us. I've seen a lot of things happening on the council. I'm not always sure that, things are safe down there. I mean, it's ridiculous, but safety is the overriding priority. is a best practice for me, to make sure everybody is safe around me and that I'm safe, So safety is number one with me.
Okay. Tanya, same question. What best practices would you employ when making decisions on behalf of the city? You're muted, Tanya.
Sorry. One of the best practices that I want to make sure, I have a problem with the muted thing, I guess, is that we are following the city charter, making sure that we are following rules. Comments and respectful of your colleagues. We need to make sure there's more respect. Conduct unbecoming of council people is unfortunate, and we need to lead by being an example. So I want to lead by being an example. Also, I want to make sure that we're involving our community. I want to make sure, City Hall or the council chambers are full with people in our community, because that's their community too. They have a reason to be a part of the process and the decision making. I want to make sure we have inclusiveness. So my best practices is number one, let's make it, comfortable for everyone. Follow the Robert's Rules of Order, council rules, respectful of each other, inclusiveness. We've got a lot of work to do in Flint, and I think it can be done. This will be a new council, and I'm looking forward to it, really looking forward to it.
Thanks so much, Tanya. And you had cut out for just a moment at the very beginning there. So I think we missed your first best practice. If you just want to give us like the 10-second version so we make sure your message gets through.
Yeah. Okay, I will. My making sure that we're best practices for me is making sure we're respectful of each other's colleagues. I want to make sure that we have inclusiveness of everyone in our community, making sure we follow Robert Rules of Order, the charter, making sure that we're respectful of our other colleagues. That's something that we have to do. Respect for me goes a long ways.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Did I cut out again?
No, we were good. Okay, Chris, same question. What best practices would you employ when making decisions on behalf of the city?
Some of them will be fairness, honesty, to treat people as, let me say, I would want to be treated, transparency, and I would never knowingly, go against the law, state law, federal law. I would follow the applicable laws, our ordinances. I think, what people do before they're elected to council plays a big part in what they will most likely do when they are on council. So I find it very important that no one violates any of our ordinances, knowingly going into council. I think there's been a lack of transparency and to some extent honesty. As an example, we're not having meetings in city council right now. I will work to open that up. So I will look at what is best for the residents and not any one particular group or person, this mayor, that mayor, another mayor. So I think honesty, integrity, transparency has to be paramount on council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move to question number 4. Ms. Burns, what efforts, if any, would you take as an elected leader to ensure transparency and access to governance? Oh, remember to unmute.
Sorry about the mic. One of the things I think we have to do is
You're breaking up here a little bit.
Okay, did I drop?
You did actually.
Okay.
We might want to begin again.
Information and good. Okay. One of the things I want to make sure is that we're getting out good information and in a timely manner. I've noticed that we're getting a lot of walk-ons. I think that when we're getting information, we need to make sure we're getting it in a good timely manner so that you have time to review it. Example would be, we had an agenda last week that was 337 pages. That's a lot of reading to do in a day if you're actually reading it. And I'm a pretty fast reader. So I want to make sure that there's transparency, good information. I want to make sure it's elected that I'm available to answer calls, making sure that if it's something I'm doing good in the 6th ward, that I'm going to share it in the other wards so that we can have like a cookie cutter process so that we're improving all of our policies and procedures throughout the entire city council. There's some great things that I see that are working in other wards and with other candidates. And I don't want to rewrite their book for that. I want to take their book, let's improve on it, and let's use those services to make the rest of Flint great. And there are things that I'm working that other candidates ask me about, and I've helped them on. So I want to make sure that whatever we're doing great in the 6th ward, we can use in the other 8 wards to make Flint great as a whole. And that's something that's important. I want to make sure people know the importance of coming and being involved in government. People have just said, I just don't want to get involved. I don't like having that feeling when I'm out here knocking doors and talking to residents. It's something that I always share with transparency on my social media page to invite them, be a part of the process. If you want change, be the change that we need. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Mr. Del Maroon, would you address the same question? What efforts would you take to ensure transparency and access and governance?
Well, the first thing, allow me to say, if when elected to this city council seat, I will realize that this is not my seat. It's the people's seat, and I'm simply an occupant of that seat for this term, which will be 5 years. So the information that I receive, unless it has to be, let me say, sequestered and not made public, it is the information of the people. And it will be my obligation to make that information available to the people. Because again, I'm only occupying the seat for a certain period of time, and it's the people's information that I will be given. And it's important that the people have that information while I'm in office and after I leave office. So I will have nothing to hide. Again, it's not my seat. I'm only a position holder of the seat of the 6th Ward City Council. So the information that I am given, it is being given to the people, and I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Perkins, same question. How would you ensure transparency and access and governance?
First of all, I'd like to set aside some time for the residents in the 6th Ward and anywhere else that I am to come and talk to me. I want to know about what is needed in the 6th Ward, and I got several ways to do that. One is cruising through the wards. One is dealing with my block clubs. One is communicating all the information that I think is pertinent to our ward to the people. I'm going to be a person that's on hand. I want to get the packets, as I understand the council gets packets ahead of time. We need to get them enough in advance to where we can really go over the material and know what we're talking about so we can communicate to the public. That is, I think this council that's right now, they're just so bogged down. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on the phone is ridiculous for any meeting. Separate the meeting so that you can get a clear understanding of what it is that needs to be communicated. And you can't do that arguing, fussing, and fighting. So I think the transparency to the people, because we work directly for them, will be one of the biggest issues. And I am a person that's honest and forthright, and I would be doing that to communicate to any of the information that they need to know about. to them.
Thank you, and thank you all. Now we'll go to the next question. Scott, you're muted.
Thank you, Peggy. See, it's not just you, Tanya. All right. So, Chris, we're going to start with you. How are you going to keep our communities safe and clean?
Okay, so to keep our community safe and clean, number one is to make sure that the police department is properly funded, that they have some of the newest, let me say, defense and offensive weapons that might be needed and available for them to carry out their work safely. When the city of Flint police department did not have tasers, you know, I spoke to council about that because it would be much better to use a taser than to implement legal or lethal force. And eventually they did get that. So I will make sure on that. In regards to, I think the second part was blight. Is that correct?
Yeah, how we keep our community safe and clean.
Yeah, and to keep it clean, we need to attack the root cause of blight. We cannot measure our success on blight by the amount of trash that we pick up and the amount of money that we spend on blight. We need to go to the root cause to stop the blight in the first place, asking questions like, why are people dumping in Flint and not in other communities? If we don't do that, if we don't attack it at the root cause, we will continue to be dumped upon and to have to pick up the blight. You know, we continue to hear about the amount of money that City Hall is spending on blight, and that's good that they're cleaning it up, but eventually we need to stop it. You know, I equate it to, you know, raising children. Eventually you teach them, you know, how to, you potty train them. So one is not continually cleaning the dirty diapers. Thank you.
All right, and Claudia, same question. How would you keep our community safe and clean?
I work with the police department. I mean, the mayor has said that when they confiscate guns, they dismantle them now, which I think is a good idea. But now the criminals have better weapons than the police force in a lot of cases. I think they need to crack down a little bit harder on the ones that they arrest in this community and set the example that we're not going to tolerate it any further, and make some strict laws that pinpoint the issues, the real issues of the safety. I'd like to see more patrolmen in the communities. I would like to see a community engagement in speaking about the issues that are really affecting them, where the crimes are, what type of crimes, petty or otherwise. We hear a lot of gunshots in the night and that sort of thing. We need to try and keep calling in, and I'm going to let the people know you need to call in. I don't care where you are, what direction you hear it from. They can only pinpoint it when they know where the problem is. So any laws that I could partner with my colleagues to enforce safety in this community, that's what I'm going to be about. And working with the police department, the mayor department, wherever. That's what I intend to do.
Excellent. And Tanya, same question. How would you keep our community safe and clean?
One of the things, I have a security background with having owning an ADT dealership. Cameras is important. Cameras, I've done that for when they first really came out popular over 25 years. That reduces blight. People don't want to be on camera or being recorded if they're dumping or legally dumping. 2, it helps to reduce crime. 3, it also helps police to track crime. Often if there's a shooting, there's a shooting on Saginaw Street, they were able to track the people who committed the crime by the businesses who had cameras along Saginaw Street. So one, we need more cameras. We need more access and more grant money to put these our communities so that we can keep our communities safe. Number two, we are now operating at dangerously low levels at our police department, and they need help. They need help. They have the same right to go home to their families like we do. We need an aggressive hiring campaign and to use some of that $47 million from the American Rescue Plan that has been in there since May 19th that we haven't used any money for to get our officers some help. One, and then another thing the third thing, we need to deal with 911. People are calling 911 and being put on hold. I've been put on hold twice for calling 911 for hearing gunshots. That's not you don't feel very confident when that happens. So we need to address the issues. We also have to make sure parents have got to be responsible for their children. Thank you.
We can't hear Peggy. Can't hear you.
Thank you. See, we all have that little mute thing going. Sorry. Okay, moving to the last question. Mr. Del Marone, how would you approach balancing the city's budget?
Yeah, well, number one, I will not spend more than what the city has taken in. And that's going to take some, difficult measures. At General Motors and other companies, they offer buyouts if that money is available. So, that might be something the city could look at. I hear some background noise from Claudia there. You're not muted. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yes, balancing the budget. I'm asking the question to council. I've asked them. So during the pandemic, was anyone laid off? Because, when you go in, were janitors laid off? I mean, nobody was at City Hall. Were people that worked the front desk where people were making payments, were they laid off? So, that was an opportunity, and I don't like layoffs because I have a union background in that. But sometimes it has to happen in order to preserve the organization. So City Hall is treading on really thin ice. They've wasted millions of dollars over a year. The Rutherford parking structure, they backed the bonds on that, and they've had to pay millions for that. Let me say Auto World, Windmill Place, Water Street Pavilion, the Hyatt Regency. There was much wasted money. Smith Village, as good as it turned out, millions upon millions of dollars was really wasted on that project to the point where they were replacing refrigerators after refrigerators in the homes after they were broken in. They had to hire a private security company for that neighborhood. Most neighborhoods would really enjoy a private security company coming in to patrol their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Perkins, same question. How would you approach balancing the city's budget?
Well, first of all, you got to review your financials, and then you got to compare your current monies with the budget from the previous year. And then you got to identify your expenses. And then I could reach across the aisle to any department. You got to just look at all the departments that we have within the City Hall to see where the shortfalls are, what is most needed currently, etc., like that. And then put up preliminary forecast with the financials together and just see where you need to be. You may have to lock something in or move monies from one spot to another, but that's how you balance the budget.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Burns. How would you approach balancing the city's budget?
Balancing the city budget is something that we've got to audit. The city takes in about 50 million but the budget is about 70 million. So we are going to have I believe it's a $17 million deficit for next year for 2022. So one thing we have to make sure is that we're fiscally responsible, making sure that we're not spending more money than we receive. The other part is we need to make sure that we're looking line item, exactly where the budgets are, what are some of the services that are most important, making sure we're getting those taken care of first. I think that over the years, because of emergency management, they have dismantled the city of Flint. And city of Flint is trying to, to stay balanced. So we have to make sure, one, we're not spending more than we're taking in. Number two, we need to also look at more grants for services that say like economic development. I was underneath the Kellogg grant. That was a great grant to be up under, because you're bringing in and looking at economic development and for small businesses and other services. So more grants to where the city doesn't have to take that out of their general fund, which is something we know that our general fund is only going to be about 56 million. So we've got some work to do. We've got to make sure that whatever's important to the 6th ward, that we also have to talk with the other 8 wards to make sure we're working towards the same goal to create a balanced budget. That's something that we've got to do. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all.